In this video we are going to set up our NS fetch results controller, and also we are going to add some variables which we are going to use them later on. So let's say this is our app delegate. We are getting an instance of our app delegate, and then let's say var NS fetch results controller. Okay, let's add a few variables. That is going to be our variable current year. It's going to be type of int, and it's going to be optional. Then we're going to say var current month, which is going to be int again, optional, and var current week, again it's going to be an integer, it's going to be an optional. While we are here, let's add also a calendar, which is going to be type of NS calendar, and it's also going to be an optional. We are going to use this later on. And as well, we need to keep this year. We need to find out which is the current year, and you will see a bit later on why we need this. So let's say var this year is also going to be an int and optional. Okay, let's go down, and we need to set up our NS fetch results controller functions. So what we need is, let's create a mark helper functions. Okay, here we are going to have two functions. First, we are going to call expense fetch request. So let's say and this is going to return an NS fetch request. Let's say let fetch request equals to NS fetch request, and we're going to use the entity name. Our entity is our entity here, which is from our core data, which is expense. So we come here and say expense, and we're going to use sort descriptor, which is required by NS fetch results controller. So let's say let sort NS sort descriptor, and we are going to use key and ascending. The key is going to be the date, so we are going to sort all our results by our date from our core data here. and ascending we are going to say false. Let's add our fetch sort descriptor to our fetch request. So we say fetch request dot sort descriptors. Pay attention, sort descriptors is plural, which it takes an array of sort descriptors, so we cannot just say sort descriptor, we need to give it an array. So let's create array on fly and we say sort descriptor. If later on we have more sort descriptors, we can just add another sort and we can just put a comma and add the next sort descriptor. But for now we have only one, and now what we say, we need to execute the fetch request. We need to actually return, because here we say we are going to return an fetch request. So we say return fetch request, and now we need our second function, which is actually going to be the get our fetch results back from our core data. So we can call func going to take no parameters, and it's going to return an NSFetch results controller. And here, let's say our fetched results controller that we have here on top, we are setting the value of it. So we say fetch result controller is going to be equal to ns fetched result controller. We are going to call the function fetched request with manage object context, and the fetch request is going to be our expense fetch request, which we created up here. Manage object context is going to be self dot app delegate that we created on the top dot manage object context, and we are going to unwrap it. Section key path, this is for dividing the table view into sections depending on the results. So let's use our date string, and cache we're going to pass a nil. Let's see why it's complaining. Don't need to unwrap it anymore with the new Xcode. So now that we have our fetch result controller, we can return it. So we say return fetch result controller.